Thank you so much for being here. We are in the second session of our first day of ATypI all over 2021. And we want to introduce Vera Evstafieva, who is an amazing type designer, calligrapher, and Cyrillic consultant based in Cambridge, UK. She's a graduate in the Moscow University of Printing Arts, and she was the first Russian student at the type and media course at the KVK in The Hague. And I was this year as well in KVK in type and media. This is how I met Vera. Evstafieva type designs include a Malta winner of TDC 2011, IELTS direct typeface for wayfinding, now the primary face for street navigation in Moscow, Cyrillic text styles for Literata, designed in collaboration with ATogether, commissioned for Google Play Books, and honored at Modern Cyrillic 2021. Lambic for the Vera Flight project for Darren Studio, which took honors in the Communication Arts competition in 2022. Rosica, Priori, and others. Evstafieva is passionate about exploring historical sources, both written and printed, and in calligraphy and type design, she enjoys the properties of each media, experimenting with transparency, color, and intersections in the letters created with a flat brush, making an advantage of the one and optimal shape of a letter in type, thoroughly balancing black and white. Evstafieva is the author of the articles for the type journal, forum journal Metamorphosis of Perception of Pre-Printing Cyrillic Research for the Cerebro Navora conference. He has been a member of the juries for the Grandstand, Typomania, and other contests. So let's start.
Thank you very much for Laura for introduction, and yeah, it's really an honor to speak here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So we can start now. Thank you, Vera.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Vera Evstafieva. I'm a Russian type designer based in Cambridge, UK now. I'm happy to explore the nature of a letter in the whole range of its behavior from written form to typeset. And I'm going to show a bit of a backstage of my project. Being a type designer who works on fonts of completely different styles, just depending on the demand of each project, I also try my hand in calligraphy. I plow my calligraphy field, and I harvest it. Apart from designing text typefaces, both serif and sans serif fonts, I tend to explore the field of display type. So here is the story of a Malta font. It is quite long and isn't straightforward. It took years for the idea to ripen. When I came back to Moscow, after graduating from Type and Media course in The Hague in 2004, very soon I began teaching the Introduction to Calligraphy and Type Classification for graphic design students, calligraphic text patterns, typed sketching techniques, and many other things for type design students. It was the time when I made two writing models for Cyrillic based on Gerrit Norzey's principles of letter formation and the distribution of the contrast in letters, famous translation and expansion. This point pen model is a Cyrillic extension of the examples Eric van Blokland gave us at Type and Media. And the broad nib model derives from Frank Blokland's models. Following these models helps students to build the understanding of how the shape of a letter appears and how the contrast works. Teaching gave me a chance to systemize my knowledge about writing and type history, and also encouraged to practice calligraphy to a more advanced level, to be able to give the students examples of different writing styles. Adding pen rotation was a nice idea for some Cyrillic letters. I learned it while practicing Roman capitals. I continued writing with the flat brush, applying rotation quite often, and also increasing the contrast. I chose the brushes wider and larger and reduced the height of the letters, so the counters became smaller and smaller. It produced a nice effect and was a challenge as well. And gradually, all this provoked a new idea to mature. So I began to work on the display typeface based on this calligraphic style. Here I collected the 2 steps of my design decisions. At first, I followed the written shapes too much. I was still not brave enough. And at the second stage, I broke through to a typographic letterform. The strokes overlap when I write with the flat brush, and this way so many new contours appeared. Typographic letter outline demands more tension and clarity, I think. But a typographer should probably even forget about the inspiration behind this typeface. The letters and their black are purely typographic here. This black has a weight of a lead letter. The density of letter makes it really heavy. It's amazing how type design, calligraphy, and teaching can come together and give a typeface as a result. I so much appreciate it when no bit of experience is lost and every practice grows into a project. Amalto was one of the winners at Type Directors Club competition in 2011 and modern Cyrillic competition a bit later. After designing Amalto typeface, I didn't touch the calligraphy brush for many years, thinking that I used all the potential of those letterforms. And only after several years, I returned to writing again, on another level. I've discovered the halftones. Now for the brush calligraphy, I dilute the ink a little bit to make it slightly transparent, intentionally, to let each stroke reveal itself and make the vibrant pattern. Also, as you might notice, the transparency of the ink gives the possibility for letters to overlap each other and still remain recognizable, having a minimum or even no white between the letters. I call it the SMIC calligraphy series as I experiment with SMIC colors, which are basic for printing. That's an adventure to bring them to calligraphy and observe their behavior in these new conditions. In type design, we always look at 2 kinds of shapes. It's a black shape enclosed in the outline and the white counterform. Both of them are equally important and powerful. And here, in my experiments, I noticed even the 3rd kind of forms appearing. And this is really exciting to observe, especially in the process of writing. The shapes of color intersections are the next layer of shapes, and they can bear the same character and style as the main forms of the letters written. Here I am already very far away from type design and reveal the properties of calligraphy. Let's say it this way, my calligraphy became more calligraphic. And I observe in my own projects how the properties of calligraphy and type design distance from each other. This happens in my own hand, it's my own experience, and the practice gives the precious insights. That's really exciting for me. Now I'm zooming out to the opposite side of a letter's life, another project of mine, just to show the difference, how huge the diversity of a letter life is. When I visit Moscow from the UK, where I live now, it's a certain pleasure for me to see my font direct in using the city. The most usual scale of typographic letters demand their rapid and clear recognition, while calligraphy allows to see a letter's particles and shades inside it. The most neutral and multifunctional font of mine, Direct became a default type for street signage in Moscow. These plates, which show directions in the city. It was designed back in 2008 for ATypI Studio. It's a wayfinding font to give an alternative to fruitful in Cyrillic font palette. It was used in shopping centers in Moscow underground for a few years, and later Direct was taken as the main font for Moscow street navigation. The letters are wide, simple and distinctive, with the sharp, eye-catching details. I paid attention to every letter quite specifically. They had to be as clear as possible and at the same time catch the viewer's eye. So I enhanced some key details of each letter. I made these spikes in place where these letters would have drops in a serif type. It is neutral, but not very strict, as you can see. It is really a great pleasure and fun to stretch from very functional type design to a flexible and vibrating calligraphic letter, and back to the demands of text type or a wayfinding font. It is indeed amazing how different the application of letters can be, and I'm happy to explore all the diversity of the letters. Another font of a wide use, which is even spread all over the world, is Literature Cyrillic. It was the first project I was invited to work on with Type Together team in 2014. I've been working in collaboration with Type Together quite often since that time, and I enjoy it a lot. In this commission for Google Play Books application, my part was Cyrillic for the text styles. Veronica Burian and Jose Scaglione designed the Latin part, and Greek was designed by Irina Vlahova. A new book typeface was needed for Google Play Books application that would work well on a whole range of devices and high-resolution screens running different rendering technologies. Additionally, the new playbooks type was meant to establish a recognizable visual identity for Google's native ebook app and stylistically distinguish itself from other e-reader competitors. Cyrillic for the Literature text style is designed to look contemporary, yet very familiar, comfortable in its rounded, warm shapes, and harmoniously spaced, which is so important for continuous reading. It is neutral but very personal. The accompanying italic, which is dynamic and playful, with a very little slant, almost an upright italic, looked as a challenge for me at the first glance. That's the case when previous experience pays off later. I didn't sketch for this italic in purpose, but I already had these practice sheets I wrote for training for myself, and they proposed me some very important letterform solutions. Here you can see, for example, the letters G and M, which have quite an inventive construction which supports the style of this italic. And all this is interrelated: type design experience and some findings in calligraphy. Here are the details which create the unique pattern of this italic: the running and jumping strokes which bend in their motion, and very deep branching of the cursive strokes. Here are the regular and italic together, and long text from e-reader. Later, literature has grown to a large family. including display and caption styles, with Cyrillic display versions designed by Elena Novoselova. And the large literati family was recently chosen to be one of the winners in modern Cyrillic contest. In between the long-term type design projects, I'm lucky to get experiences of a completely different kind, and I treasure them. Here it was a performance designed and organized by calligrapher Brody Neuenschwander. Brush with Silence was held in the Old Round Church in Cambridge. 18 calligraphers were invited to write different scripts and styles simultaneously in the whole silence, wearing all white, in front of the public, silently walking around and observing. It's a performance and mystery happening in your hands. You hear the sound of writing wheels and steps of people who came to watch it. The poem which I was going to write was about Christmas by Brodsky. It starts with the words, "The three kings came," and suddenly the text began to interact with the entrance of spectators to the church. Can I describe how excited I was? These 2 hours event created the most powerful impression about calligraphy on me in my life. That's the essence of calligraphy as I personally feel it. Calligraphy is a motion, it is an event, it is a performance. I feel a bit anxious about finished calligraphy pieces, which have already stopped developing. I admire the movement and the motion, the appearance of shapes. Here is the whole page. And believe me, it's not the same as being present at the performance of writing. Not a calligraphy in a strict sense. I love watching the process and admire the power of creation in calligraphy. I am an admiring observer, and I couldn't leave behind the growing new wave of calligraphy in Russia. Here is my article about calligraphers in Russia who just grew up high and keep growing since the early 2000s. I wrote an overview about the calligraphic scene, mentioning all the different interests of Russian calligraphers, various calligraphy schools there, exhibitions and projects. And most importantly, about learning and teaching, which accelerates this calligraphic boom. This article was just published this September in Forum Journal, and I hope it can be of some interest for the type and lettering people. It seems it is the first survey of this kind. Now I live near Cambridge, which is a home of a great letter carving tradition. Here is another project which gave me food for thought about the letter's nature, about the letter's completeness. Eric Marland, the letter carver based in Cambridge, asked me to make a font for him and provided me with the finest drawings on tracing paper, which I hold here next to the letters I produced on their basis. Eric, as well as most of the letter carvers, sketches by hand each time for each new stone, and hand-drawn letters always keep some space of freedom before the chisel gives it the final shape. Look at the pencil outline. Yes, it is very precise, but would you agree that it still allows some variations? It is vibrant. And look at the digital font outline. It is a piece of solid black. It is complete. The decisions are already made about every single part of the letter. Why would Eric need a font then? Here it was a practical need. to make a layout for covering really many names of donators in Jesus College of Cambridge University. And the font would be really helpful. And very soon, Eric began to use this font for print to accompany the images of carved lettering in exhibition catalogs and yearbooks. And in this case, the font and hand-carved letters support each other and don't compete. The transformation from calligraphic shapes to typographic requires some will and bravery to leave the charm of the handmade and design a new substance. Here is the project I was invited to participate with one style, a Beer of Light project by Darwin Studio. Inspired by the tasting menus offered by craft breweries in North America as flights, each style is separately designed by guest designers, using a specific type of beer as inspiration. Beer types are arranged so that the color of the beer corresponds to the weight of the style. Upright styles correspond to beers with a dry finish. I chose to design lambic style. Some years before that, inspired by the workshop of Irish calligrapher Dennis Brown, I've been experimenting and exploring the field of Celtic type letters, growing hybrids of Italic and Celtic. When the invitation to this project came, it was such a happy chance for a pile of calligraphic sketches stored in my studio to be developed and implemented into a form of type. With various flavors added to this design, many iterations brought these letters to a style of black, slightly slanted letters of pan-European character, which inherits traces of medieval European writing styles.
From the old world comes forth a new Vera, brewed in the rich casks of Darden's studio. A new small batch fermentation worthy of waking the town crier. A seasonal blend, mixing the new with the familiar. Let the coronation commence. Vera Lambic. Please typeset responsibly.
So here is Vera Lambic font. I'm happy to share the stories behind my projects. These were my letters, transparent and solid, moving and stable, black and colorful. Working in both type design and calligraphy is a great pleasure for me. Thank you very much for your attention. It's very exciting to give a talk in front of the ATypI audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. It was super nice. I'm so fond of you, but you know that already. Because it's this feeling of how taking calligraphy into type design, that is something that I am just an amateur calligrapher and I'm struggling doing this, but I enjoy it very much. So I don't know if we have any questions. I will do a question. I would like to ask you, Vera, what do you feel? What do you feel that is the most difficult part from translating calligraphy into type design? Yeah, the micro.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, could you please repeat your question, Laura?
Yeah, I was asking you, what do you find that is the most difficult part of translating calligraphy into type design, if any, for you?
Yeah, I think as we learned type in media, the calligraphy for us is basis or inspiration for many iteration transformations which can lead to a typographic letter. And it's really a great skill and way of thinking, I think. But it really takes an I need an effort to break through to a typographic form, which is really different. Even well, I'm not a perfect calligrapher, as Herman Saff, for example, and I can't just digitize and make a typeface. I never actually designed a calligraphic type. You know, I mean the open type with many alternates, etc. I never had an idea like this. I usually take the calligraphy and I transform it. So yeah, it's bravery to make something different.
Yeah.
It is a different black, as I mentioned, and I don't know how clear I was describing this feeling. The black of the calligraphic letter is so much different in its movement. It's much lighter. It can be transparent. It bears the movement, the dance of the writing. And typographic letter is very heavy. It remembers the weight of lead letters and wooden letters, any of them. They are really heavy, and it affects the shapes, I think.
Oh, sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hey, it works. I was wondering, Vera, have you experimented with color fonts yet? Because I was thinking about like watching the way you had that overlay with the different colors of ink in your calligraphy, and I'm wondering if that format holds an appeal for you.
Yeah, I certainly heard about it, but no, not really. Not yet. I enjoy the difference, I think, and in fact, the no typeface, the typeface can't really mimic to calligraphy. Really, it doesn't have a purpose to do this, I think. So it's nice that typeface and calligraphy can be different.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and also as far as I know about color fonts, also it would really narrow the use of a typeface if it is already, if so many decisions are already made.
True. What I've found really interesting is playing with color and transparency with fonts on the web, and I've ended up with some effects that are sort of like what you've played around with, where you can get a little bit of the overlap and kind of interplay between them. And I think that's what I find most interesting about what you were showing with the calligraphy, is that interplay between those shapes. It's not something we can easily do yet on the web.
Yeah, that's great. I have to research and learn about it more. Yeah. Probably some new ideas will come.
It's funny that you say that you are not a perfect calligrapher, but how often do you practice calligraphy? I mean, when you don't have an assignment.
I have periods of attachment to calligraphy, let's say. It is the same with drawing. For example, I draw with brush and ink as well. So I can't really plan and control it that much. There are some years when I practice every day, and there are some gaps when I just leave it. And I do type design. I'm busy with type design only. So yeah, I'm not. I don't work as a commercial calligrapher. I don't take commissions for huge amounts of writing. I'm not that trained as professional calligraphist, but I think I can say that I'm a type designer who can write.
That's a very nice description. Are you teaching as well, Vera?
Not now, really. I stopped teaching 10 years ago. I had a teenage student a couple of years ago, which was really great, but I don't teach now. It was also a period about 7 years, and I really enjoyed it, and they gave some fruit. So, yeah, it really helps systemizing the knowledge and preparing some materials and researching. It gives a lot.
Yeah, sure. I don't think there's questions. We have to make more questions, Jason, or you can. Or you can do your own questions, Vera, if you want, to yourself.
Oh, right. Well, I didn't show all the projects, of course, it's impossible. But, well, I can just show the journal again. It has, I'll have to show it. It is letter exchange journal. They publish it twice a year. And this issue has the work of Russian calligrapher Maria Skopina on the cover. And okay. Yeah, here is the article, and well, I just hope it can be interesting to type and calligraphy and lettering people all over the world. So yeah, please find it. It's not it's not an online publication. It's paper, but I hope it will be read by many colleagues.
Jason, your time.
So I actually wanted to ask you about the Literata project. I'm such a huge fan of that typeface. I've used it for tons of things, and I guess what's curious to me, I guess, in listening to you talk about the origins and the way you draw and design, and the feelings about the physicality of these things, to then be working on something that is entirely digital and sort of lives its life on book reader screens and things like that. How do you feel about that? About that you know, a typeface that may never be used in print, or may not be used in print very much?
Yeah, I love this. It's great to explore all the fields that type can be applied to. And well, actually, it is already used in print. I just a few days ago I saw that some books are coming.
Oh, that's great.
From print with Cyrillic literata, and it finds its way. And, well, it's already some years old, and the field of application grows wider and wider, it seems. So I'm really happy about this.
That's great. It's one that I think it's wonderful for typesetting digitally. I've been using it in a project to typeset Moby Dick, and you know, as a website, and I love the idea of being able to do these things with a nicer quality typeface. It just has so much nicer feeling to it.
Thank you.
We have a question from Beata. So Beata Sorobite. What project was the most enjoyable to work on?
As many designers answer this question, is the recent project I'm working on now. But, well, the most enjoyable. Well, I think I really love my Amalta typeface, which is behind me now. It's TDC poster from the competition.
Amalta, yeah.
Yeah, I think it became just my thing, the most concentrated
Yeah, because you discover a lot of things in the process, right? And it also happened to me when I did this exercise of transforming calligraphy into type design for the first time. And what you did, actually, what you said is really great, because it's this idea that it's converting something into something else. It's not trying to copy calligraphy. It's just an evolution from that, and you take calligraphy as a starting point. But not only as a starting point, of course, it's much more than this. But I think it's something that we got from typography, right? In a very strong way, because we were not practicing calligraphy to become calligraphers. We were just practicing calligraphy to understand the construction of letters and forms, counterforms, rhythm, color, texture. No? And after 18 years already, 17 years already, I think the impression that this got on us was enormous. And I'm really amazed how all of the students of typography, or some of them, or the most of them, I don't know, I don't have the numbers, have been on exploring also this way of working on type design, you know, not only as a designer, but in my case also as a teacher. You know? And I think it's really great, because it's about not being loyal, but being inspired, and then transformation, and the mix of this and hybridation between calligraphy and type. I find it fascinating, interesting.
Yeah, I think calligraphy, the way we were taught to practice it, it is an analytical tool, very strong analytical tool. And this might sound, how to say, not offensive, but to the true professional calligraphers, for whom it is already the final result. And but yeah, we use it to understand the letter formation.
It's funny, because I work with calligraphers. I mean, I'm an eternal student of calligraphy. And every 6 months, I mean, twice a year, I go to this workshop, intensive workshop with Uriol Mireo and Laia Soler. And they are always telling me that even though I do something completely different, it's really great to see how respectful we are with calligraphy. You know, we are not destroying calligraphy. We are just honoring calligraphy, you know, by using calligraphy for our type designs. We have another question from Trine. Hello, Trine. Can you talk about Cyrillic compared to Latin? Some letters look the same. What is your focus when you have to design to an existing Latin?
To existing Latin. Okay, I think I started when I started, and when I went to The Hague to study. In the beginning, I was designing Cyrillic and Latin together, and I feel it as a system, as one system. So they influence each other. So I began to work on Cyrillic versions later, many years later, I think. But I still try to feel the style of the typeface. I try to find out, actually to feel what could be the way of thinking of the designer who made the Latin part. And so to continue this project the same way, to build it to one body of the same style, to make this universe harmonious, let's say. So yeah, there are some letter forms which are shared in Latin and Cyrillic, but there are many others which need solutions, decisions. That's a lot of work, and it is fun.
Nice.
So we do have a question from Ilya as well, but before we move away from this topic, I was curious, you know, with Lambic, it looks like that sort of feels like a synthesis of your calligraphy self and your type designer self. And I'm curious if that has led you to think more about other ways those parts of your, you know, creative letter exploration might come together in a different sort of way. Like, are there other typefaces that it's got you thinking about designing?
I think I have to practice more calligraphy and find something new in this field first, probably. Well, not now, not yet. They haven't matured yet. It seems that it takes quite a lot of time for all the experiences to get together, and or the other way. So probably some commissions will come, and I will dig out some earlier sketches, and they will grow into new projects. I think so. Yeah. So I don't notice the new ideas yet, but they're probably here. Yes,
Well, I know that's sort of at the heart of what Ilya was asking about. He wants to know if Amalta text is in the future.
Yes, it's a great question. Thank you. Yes, I've been thinking about it for a long time, and serif text typeface could be possible, and also sans serif companion. That's just a matter of choice, and probably the some other display styles can be added to it. It's yeah, I just have to think about it. You know, I'm busy with other projects. That's the reason I don't start with this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, just I remember what I was going to say also. It's a different topic. When transforming from calligraphy to type design, to a typeface, or from drawn letters to a typeface, it is sometimes questioned whether it's worth doing. When I was showing the font I made for Eric Marland, and others. We've been thinking whether it's worth doing, whether it will stop developing the style itself in the hand or not. Actually, I think that quite many calligraphers, practicing calligraphers, and lettering artists are quite scared of this idea that their style will become a font, which will freeze their style. And actually, as I noticed on my own experience, it does freeze the hand for some time, but it can be developed further for some years later. It can be personal, probably it works in a different way for others, but I can say what I experienced.
I have a question about this project you did, the Capitalis Romana. This was with Dennis Brown? I mean, you did the typeface from the letters from Dennis, the Roman capital?
No, it is for Eric Marland, the letter cover in Cambridge. Okay. Yeah, he has his own style of drawing, and he sketches for and makes the layout with a pencil each time. It just simplified making a layout for him when he had to carve many names in Jesus College. But in general, we asked those questions. Not every letter cover would wish to have a typeface with it.
But were you sharing your process with him when you were doing the typeface? I mean,
yes,
sure. Curious about how you were developing the typeface for him.
Yeah, it was digitizing work, but I was also a bit surprised that there were enough solutions to be made, decisions to be made. Yeah, the pencil outline, the pencil line is different to the vector outline in the font. And some things had to be decided, especially the very thin serif endings. They are quite indefinite in drawing. They can be just cut with a chisel, and this way they become final shape. So.
Yeah. But he was not carved. It was only done by brush, right? It was not carved in stone.
The letters he gave me were drawn and he carved them. He has the style, he repeats it, he remembers it, and he probably improves it every time and adjusts this style to each project. So he knows every detail of the curves of these letters. But yeah, once it became a font, it is already there forever. You know?
Yeah. Of course, you took the decisions for him. I mean, he couldn't do the decisions, so you took the decisions, of course. We have another question from Beata Borisovaite. Do you consider creating an animated typeface? Because the way you drew the letters is in the example video was interesting to witness and could be incorporating digital versions too. This is more or less what also Jason was.
Yeah, it can be similar. It's a good idea for a project, a certain project. If there is a demand for this, I think it would be really great. Yeah.
That reminds me of the presentations from Underwear with their with the variable axis of time. It's just a really kind of a fascinating way to look at the creation of the letters. I mean, there's they were showing it with some Chinese lettering and then also with Roman letters, but I think actually a more sort of calligraphic shape, a brush kind of feel would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. I will think about it.
People want you to work more, Vera. People want you to work more, Vera.
Sure.
To be detached, not to be detached. Not to be detached from work. No. We don't have more questions. I don't think, maybe we can go, wait, we have more stuff here. Maybe well, people are just sending compliments for you.
Thank you so much.
If you want, I don't know, Jason, what do you think? We could go to the hangout room now, and then we leave this space. And Vera, if you can join us in the hangout room,
okay.
There might be more people there, and then we can continue the conversation for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you very much for moderating the talk. And
it was great.
Thank you so much, Vera.
Thank you.
So maybe we could see some of the people watching us could be at the hanging room, and they can also say something personal. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. See you at the hanging room. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow.